In the midst of an unprecedented zombie outbreak, people have been stripped of all resources: food, shelter, and the game's budget. In a dramatic reimagining of one of the most beloved survival horror series of all time, is there room for a mobile spin-off with gacha elements? Well, it's certainly not as dramatic as the trailer implies, and the result is probably as what you expected. Hi, my name is Psyche, and it seems like almost every successful IP wants to get their brand out there with a mobile spin-off of sorts. I honestly can't even think of one that did it well, but I suppose it's now Resident Evil's turn. Originally announced earlier this year with a beta test version, the game is now finally out on mobile devices. So after playing this game more than I should for a week, I'm gonna be doing a brief review on how good or bad Resident Evil Survival Unit is, and why you should definitely not play this game. Let's begin. To first answer the question, whose brilliant idea was it to make a mobile base building game with gacha elements? Well, that would be none other than the creative geniuses at Capcom, Aniplex, and Joy City. Aniplex, one of the largest animated media publishing companies in Japan. That surely means we'll be getting some high-budget quality. In an interview article from IGN, we can see that while Capcom was not directly involved with the development, the producer of the series still oversaw everything. Joy City, on the other hand, is a group based out in South Korea and did most of the heavy lifting in development. Of course, I don't blame anyone for probably not knowing that the game exists, as these smaller mobile titles often don't get a lot of spotlight from the media. Anyways, I do have a pretty warm history of the series. I personally have played the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 4, 7, while 8 is still sitting in my library untouched. I actually liked Resident Evil 4 Remake so much that I platinumed it. Amazing game all around. So how does Survival Unit try to capture the same feeling? Well, it supposedly takes place in an alternate parallel universe of the mainline games, featuring all the iconic Resident Evil characters in a different light, which totally isn't a cheap tactic to have everyone in the same world so they can occupy the gacha pool. You play as the player, someone that was held captive by the Umbrella Corporation for experimentation, and after waking up in the midst of the outbreak in Resident Evil 2, you try to escape and find a group to survive with. The beginning portions of the game, admittedly, is pretty good for a mobile port. You got the fixed camera angles from the classic games, the recognizable scene of meeting the first zombie, and puzzles that carry the essence of the series with even the same sound effects. The graphics definitely do not look the best for a mobile game, and I ran into a bug as early as 5 minutes. The best way I can describe it is that it's a demake of the RE2 remake. Apparently, the outbreak got the protagonist so shook that he forgot how to walk. Truly amazing attention to detail. I should also mention, the game isn't voiced. You get some generic battle lines from each character, but that's it. I'm pretty sure they just got them from the existing games as well. I'm guessing rehiring back some of the most iconic voice actors just costs too much for this multi-million-dollar company. Heading outside and witnessing the horrendous and unthinkable reality of unfinished animations, the player is just about to get overrun by zombies when Claire comes in and saves you. Also, I should mention, I thought the game bugged out, so I tried to change some settings and update the game, except it looks like all the animations are just permanently broken for me. Honestly, this just makes the video even funnier, so I'm not gonna even mention it. You're then introduced to the strategy portion of the gameplay. You basically have 2 lanes of enemies coming in, and another path from the back during some stages. Your characters can attack automatically and will have a skill that can be used on cooldown. I was completely stunned when Claire literally just pulled out a minigun as part of her skill. There are multiple classes in the game, and only defenders can move around the lanes to focus their fire. But don't worry, there's an auto mode and 2x speed, so you don't have to use any part of your brain. Anyways, after clearing the horde, you arrive in the most iconic location in the series, the Raccoon City Police Department. However, instead of free roaming the map, you go through a few other corridor levels on either wing of the place, collecting items to help you out, with callbacks to some of the most recognizable puzzles. Originally, I thought this will play out just like in the OG Resident Evil 2, and you even meet some returning characters like Marvin and Jill. Except 3 rounds of these explorable areas later, Marvin just somehow finds the other medallion and you're out of the RPD for good. A faraway transmission from Ada tells you that there's a safe place you can get settled in while waiting for rescue, and urges you to go there. This is the actual main portion of the game, but before you do that, the game prompts you to leave a review. I never thought too much of it at the time, but now that I look at it, I think the game asking for a review specifically at this moment is deliberate. If you look back on the time spent on the game so far, assuming that the animations actually played correctly for you, the game has actually been fairly decent so far. There's no flash sale pop-ups, gacha mechanics, or any kind of roadblock in your gameplay. All it did was a shoddy but passable recreation of the classic Resident Evil while meeting some of your favorite characters from the franchise. It makes perfect sense that the game will want your positive review right now before leading you down the path where all the bad stuff lies. It's not a coincidence that this prologue was also the main portion that was showcased a few months ago. It's as if they knew that showing the bad stuff will immediately kill the hype for the game. There are still these curated exploration levels later on, except the time you spend on them is vastly outweighed by the not-so-good portions. So this is where the base management main gameplay loop begins. You have a central mansion area that's your base of operation, and a few other structures nearby that you have to repair. The game will guide you step by step of what you're supposed to be doing. Repair the structures, which will take real-life time, but you can speed it up with a premium diamond currency. And the game seems to want you to do that as well. There are the common resources: food, lumber, iron, and fuel. Every time you do pretty much anything, you'll need these. They're passively generated over time, and you can upgrade their production efficiency. You get a lot of extra resources as part of the game's launch, though you just need to play the game for an hour to tell that you'll always be running out of fuel the most. Without sufficient resources, you're essentially time-gated before being able to continue progressing. Also, you're not allowed to upgrade 2 things at once. Well, at least not until you pay for it. If your mansion needs 4 hours to rank up, then you would just be sitting on a stockpile of resources with nothing to do. The second upgrade slot is kind of huge if you think about it, since it effectively doubles your efficiency assuming something is always being upgraded. You can either pay 1,000 diamonds, the premium currency to get it for 2 days, or pay the generously priced $3 pack to get it permanently. Now you might be wondering, getting it permanently for that cheap seems pretty good. And it is. The thing is that you have to consider that this is a feature in the game that's sold to you separately, when it didn't have to be. You also get a supply warehouse building later. Basically, you get a random piece of loot every couple minutes. It can range from anything between resources, time skip tokens, or even premium currency. You basically get drip-fed free stuff just for staying logged in and checking on it every couple minutes. If that's not the most mobile game mechanic I've seen, I don't know what is. Even the merchant made it in, except he's also not voiced. I mean, they could have just thrown in some of his lines from Resident Evil 4, but I guess that's too much work. He sells stuff at the cost of the premium diamond currency, with some of the deals requiring a higher VIP tier. How do you increase the VIP? Well, you get passive VIP points just for playing for longer. However, you can expedite it by paying diamonds or certain packs from the cash shop. Toggling through the VIP levels, you get some pretty sweet bonuses, such as higher efficiency for your resources, more marching slots for expeditions, more defense and attack, which will have advantages in PvP. Yes, there's PvP in the game, because how else are you going to show off the powers you gain by paying? It's your typical auto battler, but you can select 5 characters instead of 3. You literally can't control anything except for placing where you want your team to be. Now, that's what I'm talking about. This is what Resident Evil has been missing all this time. Unsurprisingly, there are seasonal rewards and a monthly shop for spending your PvP coins. Another portion of the game is like an expedition mode. Your base is actually located on a larger map. If you join a clan, then all your clanmates will be close together, though you do have the option to relocate your base at any time. Scattered across the map are these interest points in which you can deploy a group to investigate, called field missions. You will deploy some of your existing characters, but also a troop of defenders, attackers, and rangers. They can be trained at their respective garrisons, and there's a chance that they'll become infested if not treated quickly, and you'll just have to tap on their infected portrait to put them down. Deploying to one location will cost action points, which is just another stamina currency that refills over time. These expeditions can range between anything such as rescuing survivors, clearing out a group of infected, or gathering resources. I even tried this one where you can pick a time frame to help rally troops from your clan to fight against a tyrant. They're just kinda chilling there on the map. I tried to do one and watch as me and one of my clanmates slowly marched their way to fight one of the most fearsome enemies in the series. And then, they just won instantly. Apparently, all you needed was a lot of guns. It was then I found out that each battle on the map does a check if your combat power is high enough, because whether you win or lose is instantly decided. Once a group is sent out, you can't send another until they come back, unless you have another marching slot. This of course can be increased a bit later in the game, but you can expedite it by reaching VIP tier 6 or buying the generous $4 pack in the cash shop to get one permanently. Also, you get Jill if you top up any amount. There's also the strategy portion of the game where you go through the stages via auto-battling to see how far you get. You get better passive resource generation the further you go. There are some boss stages, except I found it rather disappointing that they were just slightly changed versions of existing enemies, like the spider from the original Resident Evil 2, just bigger. When I attempted to clear out some of the levels on the radar map, they literally just had the exact same enemy layout. Using the XP books you collected, you can level the survivors, but their cap is dependent on your base level, so you'll still be time gated there. You can also level their skills and star tier, which I'll get to later. Once you get deep enough into the game, it also looks like there will be slots for additional gear, such as weapons. In case you're not aware, this entire gameplay loop is very similar to another existing mobile game called State of Survival, which also pulls some classic mobile game tactics in terms of monetization. Spaced out daily rewards that nudge you to stay logged in for just a little bit longer while giving you reasons to spend money and skip some of the tedium. Now, if I were to be brutally honest, if there was a game that sort of mimicked this kind of gameplay loop without all the bullshit monetization, I'd probably play it. One of my favorite mobile games I used to play was the original Diner Dash. Nowadays, it's microtransaction hell, but I'm someone that finds the puzzle on how to optimize something to be really fun. I don't even have that much of a problem with the strategy gameplay portion. The main problem with games like these is that you can't get too creative on how you want to optimize your gameplay without the game throwing a barrier in your face. Plus, due to how time-gated everything is and how you can pay money to skip it, there's undoubtedly going to be people that will progress faster than you, meaning that they will be able to beat other players in PvP. You might also be thinking, who the hell is playing these games? Well, as it turns out, a lot of people. There's a reason why these unoriginal cash grabs keep popping up. A tactic used by some mobile game developers is to just create as many of these as you can, and chances are, you're probably gonna catch a mega whale that funds the game for you. One of the reasons IP-based gacha games are so easy to criticize is that everyone knows that these games exist to exploit the emotional connections players have with the original works. I mean, why wouldn't you want the most iconic Resident Evil characters right there on your phone? Combined with the slob-infested projects that pop up on the App Store constantly, this game quite literally embodies why mobile gaming has such a bad rep. However, we're not done. There's still the gacha portion, so how does that work now? I know Resident Evil isn't exactly the universe to have a big roster of characters. Given how the gameplay continuously gets developed, I wonder how they're gonna fill the void when everyone in the franchise has appeared. It doesn't take much to see that they're really stretching a bit here with some of the characters in the pool. For example, who the hell is Murphy Seeker? Well, he's that one guy that Jill finds in Resident Evil 3 that gets shot like 10 seconds into his cutscene. Some of them you really have to stretch your imagination for. Though, to be fair, you will have to be a true Resident Evil fan to understand the lore implications. I mean, come on now. Alyssa Ashcroft? The mother of the protagonist of Resident Evil 9? You're telling me this isn't lore relevant? How can you say you're ready for Requiem if you haven't played Survival Unit? Anyways, let's see how the gacha system works. Claire has figured out that by shooting out flares, then new survivors will be attracted to your cause. There are two types of banners in the game, the advanced and the epic recruitment. You get up to 5 free normal recruits a day, but you have to wait a 5-minute interval before the next one is available. This is of course a player retention technique that gets you to stay logged in for almost 30 minutes every day. They don't want you to just collect your resources and logging off immediately. Looking at the gacha pool, you have a chance to either get an epic character, their files, which is used to limit break them, or common upgrade materials. The difference for the epic recruitment is that legendary units like Claire can drop too. So far, it looks like she's the only one in the game right now, since I have not seen a way you can get Leon, Carlos, or Ada. As you can see, the rates are really not in your favor. Claire only has a 0.5% chance of dropping, but you can get a number of her files. If you get enough files, you can just fuse it together to get the character. However, this game also has a shard system. In these types of gachas, a unit's power level can be dramatically increased by raising their star tier, and to do that, you'll need more of their files. The higher the star level, the more of them you'll need per increase. You'll literally unlock more skills for the unit as you climb the star tiers, so free-to-plays will not be getting these advantages in PvP and field missions. Also, just a note, I did not see if there was a pity counter in the game, so good luck with the raids. If you don't have flares, then an advanced banner will cost 500 diamonds, while an epic one will cost 1,500. That's 15,000 for a temple. And since this game does a 10+1 bonus, there's no reason that you wouldn't want to only do multis on the epic recruitment. You get like 20 free flares for the launch of the game, but I must warn that you really don't get a lot of these yellow flares for playing normally. I completed maybe a few days worth of missions just to get 10. I probably don't even need to do a deep dive on the cash shop, but in addition to the permanent account boosts, there's also a battle pass for $10 and some top-up packs for whales. It'll look familiar if you have played any number of mobile games before, so there really isn't much for me to comment on. Resident Evil Survival Unit is a rehash of an existing mobile game formula that frankly adds nothing to the franchise other than a time sink for the 10 fans dedicated enough to play it. Underneath a semi-formulaic but functional base management simulator and a shoddy but serviceable recreation of the original Resident Evil gameplay, there lies a mountain of the most classic mobile game monetization and retention techniques. With a lack of polish and unoriginal designs, Survival Unit only serves to validate the stigma of mobile gaming. Congratulations, maybe there is a Resident Evil game worse than Umbrella Corp. The most fun you can have with Survival Unit is by not playing it. Anyways, I hope you found this brief overview of the gacha version of a video game franchise I enjoy to be intriguing. I almost didn't know about it until someone pushed it to me. If you play the game yourself though, let me know what you think. For more content on gacha games, subscribe to the channel. And for less serious and informal discussions, I post every now and then on my second channel. You can also support me for as little as $2 a month on Patreon. Thank you for tuning in, spend moderately, and always remember, have fun out there.